and welcome back to Bumblebee, everyone, where today we don the archaeology and adventurers gear to investigate the top 10 ancient ruins that tell incredible stories. So have your Caribbeaners ready, have the Nature Valley granola on lock, and let's go. Let's start with a pretty face, and not my own. I mean the very recognizable number 10, reclaimed by nature. I think the first time I saw pics of this place, I personally was like 13 and on Tumblr. I'm pretty confident you'll recognize this site even if you've never heard its name. De Molini is a site located in Sorrento, Italy. The earliest ruins in the Val are believed to date to the 10th century AD, at the point where the two streams, Casarano Cesarino and St. Antonio, meet. This is because, as the city's name implies, the community was a whole load of flour mills, which relied on the flow of the water from the rivers to function. The industrialization of the Val de Molini continued over the centuries. At one point in time, there was as many as 25 mills operating in the area, such as a sawmill which produced wood for the famed cabinet makers of the Val. Another was the paper mill that helped the Val turn into an important paper-making center for the Republic of Amalfi, which existed between the 10th and 11th centuries AD. The mills in the Val continued functioning for centuries until they were abandoned around the 19th and 20th centuries. In 1866, a nearby Piazza Tasso was created and the mills were relocated there. This move was necessary as the increasing humidity in the Val was becoming unbearable for the workers in the mills. Do you know who it wasn't unbearable for? Our girl Mother Nature, who, with the departure of humans from the Val, began to slowly reclaim the community, creating a canvas of natural beauty that is simply breathtaking. Okay, now for the Grecian gates of hell, number 9. Thought this was gonna stay happy and ethereal? No! Right to death and destruction, baby. So, this ruined city is called Taenarum, and according to one of its many legends, it was founded by Taenaris, who history argues was either the son of Zeus or the son of Poseidon. Either way, mom got down with the gods, so go mom. Outside of legends, Taenarum was likely constructed by the Helots, who built several temples at the site, with the most notable being in dedication to Poseidon and Apollo. Most famously, however, was a cave described by both Strabo and Pausanias, which was said to be a portal to Hades. You may know it from the story of Hercules, who descends into the cave to complete the last of his 12 labors set up by Eurystheus of Mycenae, which was to catch Cerberus. Some of the Greek poets state that Hercules brought up the hounds of Hades in the city as well. The cave is also where Orpheus led his wife Eurydice back from the underworld, after Hades and Persephone agreed to allow her return on the condition that Orpheus did not turn around and look at her until they reached the upper world, which he does anyway, when they're not fully across the underworld borders, so his wife vanishes forever. What an idiot. When Sparta was devastated by a major earthquake in 464 BC, they had just got done freshly killing a bunch of Helots. So as a result, the Spartans blamed the Helots, this cave, and its ritual use, seeing it as Poseidon's vengeance on the Spartan ephors who had killed the Helots who had taken refuge at that sanctuary. Maybe don't kill a bunch of folks if you don't want an earthquake then. For number 8, we will take a trip to the sacred place. Argentina, a country usually thought of for its aesthetics and beauty, is actually a fruit basket of archaeological sites. In fact, some of the most important pre-Columbian ruins, such as the Quilmes site, are found in Argentina. In this arid and stony landscape, the Quilmes people, who belong to the Diaguita culture, created a sophisticated community. Like many of the pre-Columbian collectives, they were incredibly smart and very advanced. They also had the stable, intricate irrigation system that allowed them to be self-sufficient in a harsh environment. The city was constructed around 700 AD and achieved its zenith in the 9th century, covering not only large areas of flatlands, but also the mountains, the builders erecting stone platforms at varying levels with spacious buildings. But we don't actually know what they named it, thus why we call it the Quilmes site. The group is long extinct. Their settlement was rich in minerals and it brought them endless troubles. First were the Incas, who they managed to beat back in 1480, but then came the Spanish, who failed 3 attempts to quash this settlement. Eventually, the Spanish didn't have to keep trying. The usual token habit of not bathing and carrying more disease than a feral dog was effective enough, as it spread to the Quilmes and decimated their populace enough that finally, in 1665, the Spanish managed to take their city. The 2,000 Quilmes that survived were sent to a res in Buenos Aires, and while on the reservation, the Quilmes people suffered until they eventually died out and were declared extinct in the early 19th century. We're looking at ruins with secrets, so how about for number 7, we do secrets becoming ruined. In southern Burkina Faso, West Africa, is the stone ruins of Loro Pene. Despite its incredible historical significance and being named a World Heritage Site, in 2009, the ruins have received very little attention. As a result, not much is known about the sites, and the ruins are a serious risk. Loro Pene's ruins are part of a much larger collective dubbed the Lobi Ruins, which is a cultural landscape covering 193 by 97 kilometers. About 100 stone enclosures have been identified, most of which are excellently preserved. Carbon dating suggests that Loro Pene was occupied as early as the 11th century, either by the Loran or the Kulango people, who controlled the mining of gold in the region. The settlement reached its zenith between the 14th and 17th centuries. As a consequence of the development of shipping routes, the Trans-Sahara trade began to dwindle, and the settlements along these trade routes, including Loro Pene, went into decline. By the early 19th century, it was abandoned for good. Archaeological work carried out at the site in the future would provide immensely valuable information about the settlement's history, the sub-Sahara trade, and the people who lived here. Unfortunately, Burkina Faso does not have the financial ability to protect nor excavate the site, making it dependent on foreign interests. The site is also extremely exposed and is threatened by natural exposure as well as human tampering. For instance, tropical rains and rough winds are causing erosion, weakening the structures of the walls, while the activities of burrowing animals are weakening their foundations. Up next at number 6 is the Celestial Tepe. The Gölbekli Tepe is an archaeological site believed to be the oldest known Mesolithic temple complex. It can be found in southeast Anatolia region of Turkey. It was misidentified as being grave markers for a Neolithic period, but once inspected closer, archaeologists realized there were 3 distinct layers consisting of different pillars and mounds. Consensus is that site was inhabited since, 20,000 BP to 10,000 BP, and now recently it's announced by 2 Israeli archaeologists, Gil Hakaleh and Avi Gofer, that they determined the centers of the 3 enclosures B, C, and A are interlinked by the corners of an equilateral triangle. This brings us to the controversial argument of the various Gölbekli enclosures reflecting alignments towards the rising or setting stars, such as the rising of constellation Orion or Sirius. However, enclosures B, C, D, and H are aligned northwestwards towards the star Deneb in the constellation of Cygnus, which had a clear view at the time of their construction. Also, only this star set each night in line with the axial orientations of all 3 enclosures during the time frame of their construction. Deneb is located on the Milky Way, where it forks and becomes 2 separate streams known as the Dark Rift. In ancient cosmologies, it's said that that rift was seen as an entrance to the sky world or afterlife, and was believed that the soul entered the Milky Way via Augie or portal in the vicinity of either the Orion constellation or the Pleiades. It'd make a perilous journey along the Milky Way until hitting that fork, at which point judgment would be passed on the soul by a supernatural being signified by the stars of the Cygnus constellation. And how about number 5? We check out the Sacrificial Sardines. Pyramid structures have existed for hundreds of thousands of years and can be found in several countries. But what makes Monte de Acaudes unique is, for some reason, it's the only example of a ziggurat-style step pyramid in Europe, making it one of the most extraordinary mysteries of modern archaeology. The entire archaeological site, extending over several square kilometers, is prehistoric, dating back to at least the 4th millennium BC. Therefore, it's pre-Nergadic. The Sardinian pyramid is accompanied by a series of religious, community, and residential structures, all of which began to be excavated in the 1950s. In the course of its history, the pyramid was abandoned and rebuilt several times. Around the 3rd millennium BC, the structure was covered by another building that was made of largely processed limestone boulders, which gave it the shape we see today. They also found similarities between it and the Egyptian and Maya constructions. Looking from the top of the pyramid at the Great Menhir towards the southeast, it's possible to trace the so-called stop points of the Moon, Sun, and Venus, i.e. the points where they stop on the horizon. But what is a ziggurat-style pyramid doing in Sardinia? No archaeologist has found an adequate answer. Some claim it's a common structure of the Homo religiosity across the earth, but okay. Another interesting structure to the east of the pyramid is the so-debated sacrificial altar, a slab of limestone about 3 meters long on supporting stones with a series of holes ground through it. Scholars believe that animals were tied to the stone via the holes using laces, and those were also to sieve blood, as it was intended for sacrificial offerings. Number 4 is a monument to megalomania. Let's meet the king who invented a new religion so he could be worshipped after his death, aka King Antiochus I of Commagene. Ruling from 70 BC to 36 BC, he claimed to descend from Alexander the Great on his mother's side and from the Persian king Darius the Great on his father's, thus combining the East and the West. As a result, it meant he had a special relationship with the gods, so he could just institute a royal cult, a Greek version of Zoroastrianism, and with the clear intention of being worshipped as a god after his death. So, the king commissioned a religious sanctuary on Mount Nemru, which because he wanted it in a high and holy place, close to the gods in order to be in rank with them, and high enough that the whole kingdom could see it and remember him. He also instructed that every year after his death, great festivities would be held there, his birthday celebrated on the 16th of each month, and his coronation on the 10th, aka this was the hot new place to meet singles near you. The king's sanctuary was forgotten for centuries after his death until it was rediscovered by a German archaeologist in 1883. Built in 62 BC, the scale of the structure and the amount of labor that was required to build it is impressive on its own. Outside the tomb sanctuary are the statues of mixed beliefs. We have lions and eagles, we have Greek, Armenian, and Iranian deities, we have Zeus, we have Hercules. At some point in history, the heads of the statues were removed and scattered through the site. In 1987, Mount Meru was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site so it could be protected and preserved for years to come. Number 3 will have everyone rethinking the roots. It took 3 decades of people in China's lowest plateau to realize that the giant crumbling rock wall by their homes was not, in fact, part of the Great Wall of China. It also took 3 decades of finding random pieces of jade, which is not indigenous to their province, to mention something to an archaeologist. When they go and dig there, now ongoing since 2012, it's been revealed that more than 6 miles of protective wall surrounding a 230-foot tall pyramid. Archaeologists have uncovered 70 stunning relief sculptures, serpents, monsters, half-human beasts. Inside the stone walls, the team found another unexpected innovation: wooden beams used as reinforcement, something that was believed to have started in the Han Dynasty, which would be 2,000 years later. Then came what was under the wall: loose skulls, no body. This was quickly determined to be a foundation ritual, and it is now the earliest example of human sacrifice in Chinese history. Even more astonishing is carbon dating determined that parts of Xiamao, which is the name given to the site since its original one is still unknown, date back 4,300 years. Guys, that's nearly 2,000 years before the oldest section of the Great Wall of China, and 500 years before Chinese civilization took root on Central Plain. You know what that means? This site has now rewritten Chinese civilization's history. Yet none of the ancient texts that have helped guide Chinese archaeologists mention an ancient city so far north of the cradle of Chinese civilization, much less one of this size, complexity, and intense interaction with outside cultures. Xiamao flourished in the seemingly remote region for nearly half a millennium, from 2300 to 1800 BC. Then suddenly and mysteriously, it was abandoned. So much about Xiamao remains cloaked in mystery, and archaeologists are still trying to understand how the economy functioned, how it interacted with other prehistoric cultures, and how it all came toppling down. On to number 2, which will be the Black City. Ghost time! Welcome to Karakoto, aka the Black City, an ancient settlement in western Inner Mongolia. Once a thriving city-state thanks to its primo location on the Silk Road, a devastating purge of the city and its inhabitants left it in ruins. Ghost stories kept locals away, and slowly, Kata became lost. Until the beginning of the 20th century, that is. Preserved from climate and protected from looters, excavations at Karakoto have uncovered thousands of manuscripts from the Tangut language, arguably one of the site's most impressive finds. As written by famed explorer Marco Polo, Karakoto is situated on the edge of the Gobi Desert, where they made a living supplying provisions to desert journeyers. It's often claimed that the city was established in 1032 by the Tanguts, an important ethnic group in southwestern China, because they were invited to settle in certain areas to be a literal human shield between the Chinese and the Tibetans. Karakoto was only captured in 1226, a year before the Tanguts surrendered to the Mongols, under whom it prospered until it came to an end not long after the fall of the Mongol Yuan dynasty, when in 1372 the Chinese sent an army to attack the Mongols at Karakoto. The defenders, civilians and Mongols alike, were mercilessly killed, leading to rumors in the present day that the city ruins are still haunted by ghosts. Until recently, many locals refused to approach the ruins of Karakoto for fear of these ancient beings. And last but never least is number 1, the Veil of Mystery. The extensive ruins of Gedi on the coast of Kenya are nothing short of awe-inspiring, yet this once grand kingdom was inexplicably deserted and reclaimed by the surrounding jungle. It is in only recent decades that the city, which was at its zenith in the Middle Ages, has been partially recovered from forest and investigated. The ruins spread over an area of almost 50 acres, and the city was once protected by an outer and inner wall. There are 2 impressive mosques, a well-preserved Arabic-style palace, and a large central hall and adjoining courtyards. The outer wall enclosed an area of some 32 acres, a district where members of the upper-class merchants and commoners resided. Evidence of the street planning at Gedi shows it had impressive infrastructure, as well as running water and sanitation, which was almost unheard of in medieval Europe, but was super common in medieval Africa. Who was primitive again? The abandonment of this city is a mystery, since there's no documentary evidence on Gedi and no fathomable reason why it was deserted. Most likely it was was a trading center that benefited from the growing importance of the Indian Ocean in the Middle Ages, and it was one of the numerous Swahili urban settlements on the east coast of Africa before the coming of the abhorrent European colonists in the 19th century. But by then, apparently it had already been mysteriously abandoned. Why? Who knows? Although local communities are well aware of the ruins before their quoted rediscovery in the 19th century, they believed it was haunted by supernatural beings known as J-words because my ass is not getting cursed today, and tended to avoid the site, which helped preserve it for posterity. The site's now protected by the Kenyan government and regarded an important heritage site. Alrighty, we've hit the end of another video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to like and subscribe to see more from us, and until next time, comment down below which one of these cool abandoned places you'd love to see for yourself.